All right, folks, here's a pep talk for this morning. Listen, if you are a healing arts practitioner, you are a wellness professional, sit down, relax. I've been hearing that you are going through a lot of imposter syndrome again. So we have circulated back into this moment where maybe you have some self-doubts that are percolating in your mind. Maybe you have forgotten what it is that you wanted to do. Perhaps there's some procrastination creeping in. Are you good enough to do this? Kind of vibes. Take a deep breath with me. Inhale and exhale. All right, friend, look, you haven't gone backwards. So let's just take that out of the project. Let's just take that out of the notes. You're not going backwards. You are right where you're meant to be. Okay. So we're going to break down how you can actually conquer imposter syndrome as a wellness professional at this stage of your journey. And if we don't know each other, hello, I'm Shanila. This is the Playground Podcast, all about self-exploration, spiritual exploration, self-mastery, and just remembering that nothing is that serious. This is your playground. You get to play. You get to explore and be curious. And if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe and take some notes. So listen, imposter syndrome is so sneaky because even the most qualified and very well-renowned people who have so much evidence for their success can experience imposter syndrome. So don't think that this is something that's happening to you because you suck. It's happened to people who really have so much going on for themselves that still feel like, who am I to do this? Am I good enough to do this? How am I going to know that I'm doing the right thing? How am I going to know that this is for me? There's all of these narratives. Okay. So I'm not going to be the voice in your head that keeps repeating you the narratives, but I'm just trying to draw the frame that understand where you might be right now. Okay. So if you are somebody who's wanting to put your service out into the world as a wellness professional, and I'll define that as a coach, a healer, a nurse, a therapist, a doula, somebody who's in the wellness helping profession. So first things first, we have to talk about this negative self-talk. This nagging, negative, wah thing in your head that often isn't even your own voice. And we can get into that. But for pep talk's sake, I just have to say that critical voice in your head, it doesn't even belong to you. So it's not enough to just say, stop talking to yourself badly, or because then, oh my gosh, I solved all your problems. But this self-talk is about to ruin your life. It's about to ruin your dreams. It's about to ruin the possibilities of the dreams that you have even before you start taking an action towards these dreams. And so part of it is to start to dialogue with this voice in your head. And what I mean by dialogue is you already talk to this voice in your head, and it is so loud that you probably don't even know what your voice is in your head. And your voice is your higher self. It is your authentic voice. It is your integrated, embodied voice. But this critical voice is actually a separate entity. And that volume on the separate entity is all the way to a 10. And your intuition, your higher self is at a 1 or a 2. So we can do some breath work to get that lowered. We can turn up your voice and then turn down, this other louder, more nagging voice. But if we're not working together in that way, I really encourage you to try to dialogue with this voice. And the current dialogue is that this voice just bullies you and you let it, and it's convinced you that bullying is the only way that it's going to protect you and keep you safe. Because if it points out all your flaws and all the mistakes and all the imperfections, then it's protecting you from experiencing that from the outer world, from the outside world, from, colleagues and coworkers and so on. So it's convinced you that part. And so that this bulliness can't continue. This bullying can't continue. And I know that you're over it because you wouldn't have clicked onto an episode that was about conquering your negative self-talk if you were not interested to conquer your negative self-talk. So it's not about removing this voice in your head. It's about having a dialogue with this voice so that it's a little bit nicer and kinder. And then the voice that you're hearing is actually guiding and supporting you in a loving and compassionate way. It's guiding you with empathy and joy and love for you instead of this mismanaged love for you, this bullying form and version of love for you. And so it's like, yeah, a lot of people also think abuse is love. A lot of people think that violence is love, but those things are a false representation of love. And so when you're having this voice in your head that is so negative, it is essentially self-abuse. It is abuse towards yourself as soon as you become aware that there is a voice that is doing that. It would be one thing if you didn't know that there was a voice, because then that's in your subconscious. But now it's in your conscious mind, meaning that you know that you have a voice in your head that is doing all these things. So it is in your awareness. So you can't run now because like now you know. And so once something is in your awareness, you have free will to decide what you're going to do with that. And your free will here in this moment where you've clicked onto this episode, it says you have the opportunity to dialogue with this voice, to retrain this voice to be nicer to you. So start to dialogue with this voice and retrain this voice to be nicer to you and ask it questions. Why are you talking to me like that? What are you trying to teach me? Can you say that nicer? Do you have a different way to say that? What am I supposed to take away from this? That didn't feel good to me. Okay. Do you understand? Do you understand where I'm getting? And if these sentences or phrases or words aren't necessarily how you talk, then use your own flavor of questioning and dialogue. And so notice that I didn't scream at this voice and say, stop talking to me. Stop, don't do that. Da, da, da. That is extraction of my energy. That is extraction of my energy resources to the point where now I'm giving it more time and attention than it needs to have. And now I'm telling it that it has power over me because like, look, it got me all hot and flustered. Now I'm bothered and now I'm irritated and angry and mad. And like now my energy resources are getting drained. It's leaching my energy. You understand how energy transference works, yeah? So you get to decide what that dialogue is going to be. So if you two are arguing together, then both of you look dumb. It's just what it is. And now if you start to dialogue and you start to notice that, you know what, this voice is actually just not helpful, then turn the volume down. Turning that volume, basically you can visualize a literal knob, like a volume knob. And if you perceive that the knob of this negative talk, this negative voice is at a 10, you literally reach over. And you could do this with an actual volume knob as well. And you can turn it down to a 0. And then it's like, that's how you shut up the voice in your head. And of course, we're talking about negative self-talk voice. We're not talking about voices in your head for any other reasons outside of this self-talk. So while you're dialoguing with this voice, you'll start to notice whose tone is that? Whose language is that? And perhaps you notice that that's the voice of your caregivers, or somebody who neglected you in your past, or a judgmental ex, or somebody who was actually abusing you. And that imprint is so heavy in our inner dialogue that it becomes us without actually us understanding that it's become a part of us, right? Like it happens so sneakily that we don't actually understand that we have this voice of some abusive person in our head, but we didn't even really understand that. But now that it's in your awareness and you're paying attention to that, you start to say, oh, wow, this ex that I haven't talked to in 10 years, oh, I don't give a shit about you and what you have to say. And sometimes it's just that easy to get rid of it. We see this with a lot of my clients all the time. It's like, all right, we just got rid of it because now we have awareness of where it came from. But sometimes it's just a little bit more complex about starting that dialogue. So I wanted to come here and give you this pep talk because if you are all of a sudden experiencing this negative self-talk being louder in your head, you do have an opportunity to heal through it with yourself. Well, friends, I hope this conversation helped you out. I'm going to leave you a link to our Discord if you want to come in there. This is for perfectionists, people pleasers, self-doubters, and we have some conversations in there as well. So go ahead and join us in there. It's free. And just remember, the world is your playground. And until next time, I will catch you soon.